SpaceX is a deep tech startup, or for that matter, even OpenAI is a deep tech startup, because making a whole that you get used to of it, and maybe it can do 70% good work so far.
Today on AI Research Road, we have Ankit Anand with us. He is a deep tech investor and entrepreneur. He is the founding partner at Riceberg Ventures in Switzerland. Ankit supports startups that are solving big problems for humanity. He works with companies across India, Switzerland, UK, and many other countries. He also helped start Kick Sky, India's first space tech accelerator. He invests in healthcare, climate tech, space, and artificial intelligence based startups. Ankit has a rare mix of science knowledge and business vision. Today, he will share how artificial intelligence is changing the game in deep tech investing and reshaping the future of research and funding. Ankit, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So, to start the podcast, my first question to you is that I want to understand the landscape. What does this deep tech means these days, and how is it different from regular tech startups?
So deep tech, I mean, as primarily, let's say what deep tech means, that any startup, right? Like say the startup, primarily we have to align on the definition of a startup, that a company which can go very high growth within a period of, let's say, 5 to 10 years of time and grow
Mhm.
into a very large company. That's what the startup term was basically coined for. Now, every startup, if they want to go like a very exponential growth within a short period of time, right, which takes generations to build, normally they have some sort of secret sauce which basically drives their inflection point, right?
Okay.
Sometimes those secret sauce is driven by the business insight of the founder and the team, right?
Mhm.
Or sometimes it's driven by the basically the technological innovation which is not available, right? So it requires strong R&D to build that, right? They build a strong IP around it, and just because of that technology innovation that they created, now they created a business which is like which grows exponentially, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
we call them as a deep tech startup, where actually the technological innovation is driving the innovation, driving the inflection point in that particular business, right? So for example, classically, I mean, and deep tech startup is not something new, right? I mean, classically, when VC was founded to fund these kind of startup, Apple was a deep tech startup at
Yes.
its own
Yes.
time,
Mhm.
because they made the computer accessible that normal technology couldn't do. And now me and you talking,
Mhm.
that whole miniaturization of computer was a complicated technical problem, which basically, let's say, they solved together with so many other companies or startups of that time, right?
Okay. Okay.
Versus Nvidia is a deep tech startup, SpaceX is a deep tech startup, or for that matter, even OpenAI is a deep tech startup, because making
Mhm.
a whole general intelligence accessible for everybody is a complicated problem. And it's a technological innovation that they cracked, right? Which
Mhm.
actually created this whole giant ship. So that's what
Yes.
primarily
Yes.
deep tech.
You're right. Thank you. And that how do investors usually find promising deep tech in startups, and where does this artificial intelligence help in this process? Can you put some light on this?
I mean, finding though, everybody has their own, because within deep tech, everybody may have their own further thesis, that deep tech from which geography. Typically, an investor's thesis is driven by what sector you invest in, what stage you invest in, and what geography you invest in, right? So then,
Mhm.
of course, then based on this particular combination, your sourcing strategy can differ, right? But
Right.
classically, on a very one thing that cuts across very commonly, classically, deep tech startups were most likely to be found as a university spin-off, because there is an R&D happening in university, which
Mhm.
is results into some breakthrough paper, which eventually, let's say, somebody or either the researchers themselves or people around them decide to make into a startup, right? So the easiest, if you want to find them very early stage, then normally you go from university. Of course, if you are doing late stage, then they are always out in the market. You already have some signaling that you can crack, right?
Mhm. Right.
So that has been the strategy. However, a lot of this is also in case of AI, and robotics, this is starting to change quite a lot, because a lot of research is also being done not only in university but also in big tech. So when it comes to cybersecurity, when it comes to AI, robotics, that all the Googles of the world, they are also driving quite a lot of research. And a lot of time, a particular engineer or a scientist from working in Google want to spin out and form something of their own, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
we
yes.
might have to look in that area as well. Now,
Okay.
of course, classically, you did it by building your network, right? You're building your brand that either they end up reaching out to you because you have your brand that attracts these kind of people, or you are always actively hanging out in the university on these places. Of
Okay.
course, with AI, things are changing, not changing very much, but it just the process remains the same. It just becomes more efficient, right? That normally now, if I have to, of course, if I can build relationship with a university, I can build with one or two, like in my surrounding, or probably 10. But
Yes.
now, let's say I can today have an easy agent, which is just basically scouting which university is publishing which paper, which might be my area of interest, and within that who could potentially think like, or like, you can always profile people that it seems like they might be thinking of doing a startup in all different way. So all these, but these are all very, very in a inception stage at this moment. None of these tools are like that everybody uses it, right? Everybody, either people are
Okay, okay.
building themselves,
Yeah, in
none of
line of
these.
the same your answer, I have a question that how are investors using this artificial intelligence to search for new startups? Are there any specific tools that scan pitch decks or founder profiles?
There are few, but none of them are like so far the gold standard, right? That
Okay.
okay, this tool is the most accurate one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are building their own as well. So for example, we also do some of these stuff, a small workflow because we are techies ourselves, right? So people are
Definitely.
building their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are some of the startups coming out which are basically shipping these solutions out there. It still is not like a day-to-day practice. It will become in, let's say, coming months or probably 6 months or something, because uh, there is the more, I mean, of course, we are all betting on the case that the model becomes accurate enough that the insight that comes from these tools are great. That they are not there yet, but we already start to use in your workflow so that you get used to of it, and maybe it can do 70% good work so far. But it's already good enough for you, right? That it's the 70% remaining 30 you have to work for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So far there are less tool which is commoditized, but as I might be speaking here today, and tomorrow somebody can send me a tool which may be very good, right? So
Definitely.
things so fast in this industry that you never know, right?
Yeah, yeah. Can artificial intelligence really tell if a startup will succeed or if the founders are a good fit? Does this artificial intelligence has the capacity? What do you think on this?
That's a school of thought, right? There are some people who says yes. I personally believe that specifically, uh, and it's not just that. Though artificial intelligence, why I believe that artificial intelligence cannot completely do that,
Hmm,
because even we as a human can't do that. That's the point.
definitely.
So artificial intelligence at its very best can mimic the what we as a human in basically trying to build, but there is no real algorithm or a process if the founder is a good fit or not, right? Because, and then we have to understand, and when, of course, that's why I'm saying I may attract a lot of criticism around it while I'm saying this, but where this school of thought is coming from, because thing is not that what happens when you know the startup, and any
Hmm,
artificial intelligence, or even as a human, you can take judgment based on the data that has been in the past, right?
hmm,
But because startup is such a kind of industry where things like, you are betting on something which might be great in next 5 to 10 years, right? And there are so many external factors, right, which changes, which is very much human, right? Like what kind of team they hire. If one team member become a very toxic and creates the very random work culture, right? That's one tiny mistake which can trickle into many effect, right? Founder get a burnout, and not somebody in the family of the founder basically passes away. This a found you can't really, I mean, you can't really go and
hmm,
check all the medical records of the entire family member, right? That to predict that if some mishappening is happening in their family or not. But if that happens, that has all the effects. So eventually, we have to understand that we as a human are the bottleneck. So even if technology can make things simpler for us to do things, but eventually there is no real formula which predicts that there is a startup succeed, whether by human or by AI, right? Of course,
definitely.
it will give you more data points. It will collect more data point, more signaling for you to make more informed decision.
That's it. How does artificial intelligence help investors check the technology side of deep tech startups before they invest? Yeah.
That thing is
Hmm,
becoming much easier, because
yes.
earlier, of course, you had to do quite a lot of manual work, because if I have to
Yeah.
find out that if this
At this
technology is
point of
working
time,
or
I
not.
think artificial intelligence is playing a good role.
Correct, right. Basically, because you can scan through or scrap through so many papers, their citations, and everything by really finding out that the technology they claim, right? Typically,
Mhm.
how do we do research, right? When a founder comes and says this is a technology there which is novel, you always ask, okay, which research is based on either your own or somebody else, and then you get those citations, right? And from there, those references, you start to dig deeper that how the world has evolved, which is
Mhm.
pretty much algorithmic, right? We who as a scientific researcher we do in our own life as well. When we are
Mhm.
doing a research, basically this is what you do, right? You go to the paper, their references, their citations, and then find out that where the world is today and what are the bottlenecks and how to solve, right? Now, this has been very manual and very intelligence intensive work, right? Which a quite part of it can be still done by AI because the part of it the researcher enjoys to do, but not. I mean, you are a researcher. I'm also a physicist, not anymore very much active, but we always hated like keeping the track of log of all the references that
Definitely.
you need to do that. At least now those lives are easier, so you can
Yeah, yeah,
focus on
very easy.
more interpreting the results than just keeping the logbook.
Mhm.
So of course, on those area, things are becoming easier and easier. And of course, again, there is no gold standard tool as of today, but things are evolving fast. So this will be a very easier unsolved problem. I don't see any reason why we won't have that part sorted.
Thank you, thank you. Talking about the risk, bias, and ethics of artificial intelligence, what are the risks do you think that by using this artificial intelligence to judge early stage startups, can it be biased also?
Yes, of course, it can be biased, but then depends, na? Like risk is with any tool typically, but it
Mhm.
depends how do you use the tool, right? So if you are basically creating a whole founder profile that okay, you are trying to get those engines, which I personally don't believe in, that okay, what kind of founder with what background can fit what, because our business is to find the outliers and the outlier won't be captured by these things.
Mhm.
So at very best, these algorithms are best in eliminating what doesn't work because there is always in any statistics in like let's say in a power law, uh, like 90% of things doesn't work and 10% work. So the 90% is a volume which is
Mhm.
easy to identify by running a statistical analysis. But the 10% who are outliers, they come from all different directions, right? So if we take it too seriously, right, when people say, okay, I'm just gonna make like a whole AI agent which is just end-to-end executing the entire decision, then you're gonna miss out on the outliers, right? Because no outlier will be captured by just, like, I mean, even if you look at the most successful founders around the world,
Mhm.
there is no real pattern, you know. I mean, people can say, okay, people who are hardworking, people who are had a humble background, they normally succeed very much, right? That's a common notion, which is true, which is quite a lot of time you find. But Bill Gates was a very rich kid actually when he started, right? So,
Yeah, there are
so,
exceptions, like exceptions in
so,
chemistry. Yeah,
so you probably will end up missing out on Bill Gates, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so there is like outlier come from all different walk of life. Of course, you can have some biases, some notions that okay, this person, but unless you really human level connect to the person and realize that what is actually going on in their life, you won't be able to understand where the drive is coming from, and that is very difficult to capture by just if you do end to end, right? So
Right, right.
that's observation is very important.
Mhm.
Um,
Uh, so how do investors make sure they are not relying only on AI and still using human judgment wisely?
I mean,
As an
most of the
investor, what
investors
do you think?
currently is
Huh?
actually currently it's the other way problem. Honest, I mean, it will change in future probably, but today we are on other side of problem. Probably none of them are using any AI, So
There's a thing. Yeah.
of course, on the junior level, a lot of people are using AI, right? Like, for example, to create content, to create, let's say, investment memo, the reports, this and that,
Hmm.
all these things, right? So people are using those tools. But as of today, especially in VC industry, I'm talking about, right? Of course, you have public market where there are algo traders who 100% rely on a algorithm and then they do that. But that's a fixed strategy that everybody is buying in for, right?
Hmm.
But as of today, because as a VC, also you have to understand other side of the picture that it's a very boutique industry, right? So if you are running an industry where you have thousands of people and you use a tool which can reduce the 1,000 people to 200 people, you save a lot of money, right?
Definitely.
A typical VC firm of a small size has like 5 to 10 people. So even if you have a tool in between, that
Mhm.
makes life of that 5 people easier, but you're not firing anybody out of that 5 people because they all have some function that you still need, right?
Yes,
So you
yes.
can also just become more productive through this people, but you're not basically removing because the time is already by default very small. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why that problem has not really hit too much
Mm-hmm.
in the industry, but we don't know how it evolves, right? I mean, this was the hedge fund earlier, very human, and now it's 90 quite, I mean, I don't know the number, but there is a huge part of hedge funds are run by algorithms, right? So how it will change, we don't know, but for now, that's not the bottleneck we are going through.
Thank you. How might tools like this ChatGPT or other AI models help investors support startups after they invest?
So there is one part which is very interesting, specifically in the kind of industry we work in, that is primarily B2B. Most of the tech startup are typically B2B, right? So in the B2B industry, there is a lot of work in the sales side, which is very much done manual, right? Like, you have this
Mm-hmm.
guy, he creates the prospect, creates the pipeline, then basically finds the right template to message and then message people, try to get on a call, which is typically done by, like insider sales kind of stuff, and basically a lot of junior work that is done, which typically can be very much automated, a lot of these, right? And not
Mm-hmm.
only it's automated, it just opens the horizon that you may not have within your network, within your scope, right? To find that, right? So now these tools like LinkedIn has been out there. They were not 100% AI driven, and now they are integrating slowly and slowly. So
Mm-hmm.
as CRM tools start to integrate more and more AI and, or just
Yeah, every
prospecting itself.
tools now I've seen that
It
they're integrating
now,
artificial intelligence.
correct.
Yeah.
So now you as an investor, sometime now the only challenge will happen that maybe these tools will start to become very expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and in that case, a very early stage startup may not be able to burn money in on those tools. I mean, it depends how the market evolves, right? But what we did classically, for example, when the cloud era came in, right? So the most of
Mm-hmm.
the VC had that model, or most of the cloud provider had that model, that normally they will give us as a VC basically a certain amount of credit that we can distribute among their start. And that was a GTM strategy for the cloud, and which still exists, right? The cloud providers like GCP, AWS, they all give us a cloud credit that we can distribute in our portfolio. And normally that's how they hook those startups to use their cloud providers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good for us as a support that, okay, they don't have to do the filtering work, because which startup is good or bad. It just they say, okay, this fund is good, we like their portfolio, I give you credit, now you decide how much they need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this kind of distribution model probably will start also becoming common for any AI startup which is trying to sell some good service for to make the life of a startup easier. For example, sales agents, like typical sales agent is one of the area that everybody is attacking towards. So then as a VC, for us, it becomes easier to distribute that or have a common license that those people can use, right? Just one example, right, of supporting the portfolio. But there are many ways that we can do that and simplify, because a lot of time there are a lot of manual work that we needed to do, which just takes too much of time of the founder that they should not be spending. And if we provide those, I mean, like recently we were basically onboarding one engineer in our team, which was like going around the portfolio and basically asking me,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to automate? You know, so for that startup, it may not be worth hiring that engineer for themselves, because they are like all deep tech startup, mostly working in hardware, so they don't have too much software task. But
Mm-hmm.
if we hire one person and we say everybody that, okay, whatever in automation you need, give to this person, it just becomes easier, right? Then
Yeah,
then they all
definitely.
will have like one day of work, but then basically it will make easier. So that's totally depend on fund to fund how we want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can think of too many ideas.
Thank you. And what tips would you like to give to researchers or like earlier startup founders who want to get noticed by investors like you?
I mean, for us getting noticed is very easy. We are we look at all our cold outreach.
Okay.
So anybody who just reach out to me on LinkedIn or sends us an email or puts us anything on our website, we normally have a look, right? So that's we are very approachable in that sense, of course. And also to find in person, most of our team members are moving around in different conferences, so you'll always find us, right? And we are very okay with cold outreach. We don't we don't really judge between cold and on non-cold. So that's for us. But of course, there are some places where some VCs who more prioritize warm outreach than other people, right? So basically, building your network,
Mm-hmm.
which can basically put up in that area. That's one way of doing it. Another, that time, I mean, we do a lot of outbound to the startups, right? Where we reach out to the startup that, hey, what you are doing is interesting. And that is done because they a lot of time build in public. So when I'm looking into things that, hey, I want to put in, like, potentially this particular domain could be interesting if any startup is working, then we go out and we try to do our own search and we find, oh, this startup could fit our thesis. Then we are shamelessly reaching out to the founder that, hey, by the way, found it
Hmm.
like, but then those persons should be visible, right? So LinkedIn is quite a lot of, I mean, place, or then in certain area X as well, like Twitter, where a lot of founders are building in public. They keep sharing what they are doing, and then those are the areas we can find them. So yeah, as be out and bold as much as possible, and you will be noticed, but don't feel any sigh in just doing a cold outreach, right? There might be some people is responding less. I mean, sometimes because if you're reaching out to me personally, it becomes bottleneck for me as well to be able to respond. But doesn't matter, right? Just keep sending reminder as much as you want, and at some point, definitely it will pop up in the inbox that we'll do.
Okay. Okay. And at the last, can you please tell me, like in short, something about your venture, this Riceberg venture?
So we are early stage deep tech VC fund. We invest in deep tech startup across sector, as you mentioned in the early intro. Normally we come in very early, so we love to get to know founder even before they are founder. So
Hmm.
if they are a researcher and they are thinking of some good startup, we are always happy to talk to them, right? Even if they have not yet formed the company. But of course, what we look for breakthrough technologies. So that's the core of our thesis, that we look for across sector. We do like space tech, life sciences, cybersecurity, all different areas within deep tech we do. But within those sectors, we look for something breakthrough. So even if we are doing space tech, we won't be doing space tech startup just because we won't call it deep tech because it's just space tech, right? You
Hmm.
may make a very good component in a space tech, but that component is already commoditized. There are so many people who can make it. You don't have a strong complex research problem that you have to solve to make that, then we might not be interested. But if you are making a breakthrough, so the breakthrough technology solves a large problem. So these are the two things that we normally go after, right? It has to solve a very large scale problem through a breakthrough technology. And if you're doing anything like that, you can always come across to us. Of course, we have a sweet spot that, and we take pride in saying that we are probably only fund which focuses on deep tech startup by Indian founders around the world.
That's
So
great.
that's focus of our first fund,
Hmm.
because we believe that Indian talent has done amazing work in past, but we still have to create more and more breakthrough startup, right? Which comes out of, like, breakthrough technology startup, like Perplexity is one example,
Hmm.
which is built by an Indian founder, right? So yeah, so that's one thing that is a quite a sweet spot, that anywhere in the world, if you're a person from, I mean, doesn't matter what passport you carry, but if you have that, let's say you're Indian or Indian diaspora network, or if one of your co-founder is from Indian diaspora, so you can be from any nationality, but if then that gives us, of course, that's one edge. That's not exclusive that we only do the Indian founder, but just that we say that Indian founders are likely to find us before, as compared to other non-Indian founders, right? So that's the one part. So yeah, that's what we do at Riceberg.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ankit, for sharing your valuable insights and experience with us today. It's been a powerful conversation about innovation, leadership, and the future. And to all our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the channel for more inspiring discussion with thought leaders like Ankit. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the future. Don't forget to like, comments, and subscribe my channel. Thank you.